Welcome back, folks. It's January freezing cold. And welcome back to the Aligning with Success call. Actually, it is
Visualize Barbados. Visualize Barbados.
January 21. So I don't know if you noticed that incredible moon. There's like a brilliant moon outside. And yesterday was this fantastic rare occurrence, I guess, some semi-rare, with the blood moon, etc. Anyway, hey, it's good times. It's fun times. Hopefully you guys get a chance to every once in a while smell the roses, take a look outside and appreciate Mother Nature in all her glory. And even the cold is, something to contrast the hot. If we didn't have contrast, I think our lives would be rather boring.
I agree.
So I think that's all part of the plot of being alive as a human being, is experiencing contrast. Speaking of contrast, this past Saturday, we had a special event where the purpose of the event, as most of you know, and for those of you who are watching in the playback, it's called a Power A Team webinar, where we have a number of powerful A's, people who will add credibility and influence to your guests' understanding and appreciation of the value of what it is that you've been sharing with them. And of course, the ABC call, which we encourage to happen as frequently as possible, is a necessary step in helping somebody get over the hump of whatever may be holding them back from making a proactive decision. And so this is a call that was designed specifically for a particular time in someone's experience of the information process or the partnering process, where they've gotten far enough down the information process that you now want to really connect them with the big picture. And it's not often that you have a big picture event readily available to you to, time itself with introducing your guest or your prospect wherever they may be in the world. And we know we need this to happen, that they get this kind of exposure at least once a month. Why? Because our business is monthly. And at least once a month, we want to help people make the decision. And remember the difference between a decision and the decision. And in this case, the decision is with respect to being a partner, separate and apart from just enrolling in NECAN or being a customer. We're trying to really place an emphasis on getting them involved in the plot to make every home a wellness home, our mission. And so we want to expose them to the best that we've got and the best stories that we've got to encourage them to make a decision to get started. And the question that I ask on your behalf or on behalf of the guests in the audience, wherever you may be hosting an event, is if you had your first 90 days over to do again, what would you do differently? What would you do the same? Obviously, because they're at a point in time where they're contemplating getting involved. And if they're going to get involved and we want them to make the decision, what does that look like from the point of view of somebody who has tenure with NECAN, who's had experience with NECAN, who's had a great success story? Maybe the way they started was the best start. Maybe the way they started was the worst start. But by now, we know the difference. And we want to be able to have them influence the decision that that individual may be making who's been invited to participate in that call. So that call has been recorded and is available to you to serve the purpose of being a powerful A when you need that kind of a decision to be made, and sooner than later. Of course, we're going to continue with our monthly schedule so that those who are hosting monthly events will be supported, which is a real goal of the Power A team, is to support people who are hosting monthly events. We want to encourage everyone to host a monthly event, even if it's an in-home, simply because if you're not setting yourself up to employ the rhythm, then you're not going to have rhythm in your business. And without rhythm, you can't create momentum. I just want to repeat that because it's an important thing to understand. It's something that is so prevalent in our counterpart in Latin America. I don't know how many of you are seeing the posts over the last few days as a result of their celebration weekend, their 180 day connection, which is rhythm of the business. They have 2, that's why it's 180 days. They have 2 of them in the year. And that's facilitated by Nika and Corporate in Latin America, because they are implementing and have for many years implemented the rhythm of the business, and their role in the rhythm is the semi-annual event, or at least that's how they see themselves. And so it's an opportunity for people to be recognized for rank advancements, recognized for special achievements in terms of the incentives. And it's only incentives that are being recognized in rank advancements. So coming back to the plot in North America for 2019 is we're getting people on point on this particular message by implementing the soon to come. And I don't have an exact date. It's imminent, like in the next week or 2. I'm just waiting for one thing to come from Ben, and that'll be in the next 24 to 48 hours with respect to calendar. But what I'm talking about is the PST, which is the Power Start Team program. Why? Because it's an emphasis on helping people launch their business correctly with a focus of attaining the Power Start immediately. And that then propels them into a launch for the Entrepreneurs Club, which is what we will be coaching and mentoring them to do. And subsequent to that is all the other incentives that roll on by as a result of that. Of course, if you do the Power Start and then subsequently do the Entrepreneurs Club by duplicating the Power Start, then you hit silver. And so some of these things can now start to happen with regularity, hence the need for a rhythm. And that rhythm begins with somebody in the local area saying, I'm taking charge of this area of my business, this region. I'm going to own this region. And they put themselves on the line and host an event. So for instance, how we did in October of last year here in Toronto, we put ourselves on the line to host an event. It was a big event, big budget, and it was a big risk. And we're doing that again right now. So that's what happens as you take on the responsibility of owning a space of business. Then what you will attract by virtue of the law of attraction, which we spend a lot of time talking about on this call, is the consequences of putting yourself in the position of that person who is hosting an event. And the event schedule is kind of our way of stepping into the shoes or the roles and responsibilities of people who are taking on the business, the ownership of the business. So let me just say that more succinctly. The rhythm of the business, which I'm not sure if I have that handy here. I probably do. Yeah, I do. That's the rhythm of the business. So what that really ties back to, you see on the vertical axis is, let me do this in speaker view. There we go. On the vertical axis, you see that ties back to rank. And on the horizontal axis, it ties back to rhythm. And then the arrows represent basically the activities or the roles or responsibilities of those individuals at the various ranks hosting those events. The vertical arrow represents the progress that's made, the law of attraction, engaging that person and allowing them to go up in rank as a consequence. So let me just mute that line. Okay, so basically, that's the rhythm of the business. And so the event schedule is what essentially gives us the rhythm of the business on a public schedule. But how does that work if you're not talking to anybody? Those events are empty. You know, those events don't happen. So obviously everything falls back to the daily rhythm feeds the weekly rhythm. The weekly rhythm feeds the monthly rhythm. The monthly rhythm feeds the quarterly rhythm. The quarterly rhythm feeds the semi-annual rhythm, and the semi-annual rhythm feeds the annual rhythm. So those are the rhythms. But the daily rhythm, whose role and responsibility is it to fill the daily rhythm shoes? Every single one of us, regardless of rank, every one of us, regardless of rank, need to be on a rhythm where we're speaking to people with regularity, not just the same people, but I mean new people. That's the business we're in. We're in the marketing and promotion business. And so it's what we do. The consequence of what we do is some of it sticks. And that some becomes members of our team, either as consumers or as consultants and as partners. And then they're taught to do the same thing, the daily rhythm. And some of it sticks, and so on. And therefore, we start building a community, a local community, which will gather up once a week. And then we'll have a regional community that'll gather up once a month. And then we'll have a larger community that'll gather up once a quarter. In fact, it's more or less a national community by that time. So those of you who are going to be in Layton, Utah, will be part of an event that is national. Well, it's attracting people from all over the nation, especially the Northeast. So if you want to partition the nation into sections, it would be like the Northeast. And then a few months later, in April, we're going to have the event in San Diego, which has now been piggybacked into a 30th anniversary celebration of NECANN North America. So it is a national event celebrating in fact, international event celebrating the advent of NECANN in North America, which is Canada, the US, and we'll be celebrating as well with our counterparts from Latin America who come up and celebrate with us, just as we do sometimes go down there and celebrate with them. So these are the rhythms. But all of these rhythms mean absolutely nothing if you're not participating in them, if you're not planning on being a participant in them, and if you're not funding them with your daily activities, which is primarily contacting and inviting new people. So that's how the business works. And that's why we do these calls and others like it in an attempt to help and support each one of those rhythms. So any questions about the call Saturday or any of these thoughts about the rhythm or the daily activities? It's really important that this call become a little bit more interactive so that I can help address any particular issues that somebody might be having, especially if you're not having the daily rhythm. I mean, if that's where you're falling apart, then that's where we need to spend time. So I'm opening the lines. Anyone?
I'll comment. The couple that I hoped to connect you to yesterday, and that didn't happen, and it's okay that it didn't because they weren't together by that point in time either. I spent time with them separately, and they had to watch that Super A before we got together. And in working with her this morning, and Hassana joined us, she had off for Martin Luther King Day, she caught the decision. You know, they hardly have time to be together because of working opposite shifts and the schedules that they're on. And she said, well, I know where I am. She caught that vision in Toronto. And she said, it's the decision. And she was able to connect it back to the I over M in the humans being more. So now that was a very significant Power A call for her to watch. So I appreciated being able to have it. There was a while when you said you weren't going to record them, but it is helpful to have that. And I think that's a very good Power A to share. I send it out to other people too. Some inactive distributors, I send it out to some to encourage them to invite people to San Diego. I have a cousin that's a former captain in the Navy who lived there for many years, and she's been inactive as a silver. She has a person under her that wants to become active, and to see if they'd be willing to go out there. So I'm using it that way to invite people to consider coming out and meeting the new president and celebrating the 30th anniversary and seeing what's new. Because there are really some that pulled away that have been those good wholesale customers, you know, the Sam's Club kind of customers that I mentioned on another call, that really of a lot of the, you know, they just pulled away and they're not aware of a lot of the new changes. And I'm really hoping that new software package is going to, they told us that a year ago, that it really will come with Lewis, because I think that'll make, not I think, I just know it'll make a big difference. Thanks.
That is imminent. I mean, I know that they're working on it every day. So it's not like it's something that theoretically is going to happen. It's something that is imminently happening. And it's happening in stages because they turn on certain parts and things don't always integrate the way they're supposed to. Right now in Canada, for instance, we receive a phone call every month for our auto ship order to confirm our 3-digit CV on our credit card, because the software doesn't save
Been able to do that.
the 3-digit CV. Until that happens, they have to keep doing that, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Would you like to get a call from Niken once a month saying, hey, we need your CV on your auto ship? So it's a little frustrating, I guess.
It is.
Or
Mike,
maybe
I'd like to introduce
touch point.
Hisana. I'd like to introduce Hisana Ralston. She's on tonight visually, and she's really plugging along here and doing well. She's enjoyed these, so I just wanted to introduce her to the group.
Hello, Hisana. Welcome to the group. Welcome to the team. We call this the Niken family, by the way, so we're not strangers. We ask questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question except the one that you had that you didn't ask.
She's not shy. She's been coaching.
Good. Just saying. So this is really an opportunity to exchange best practices, etc. This call specifically, by the way, when we initiate the new program for Power Start members, this call is going to really focus on those ABCs. It's going to focus on the early stages of understanding. I'm a guy who really loves systems. And I don't know that I could have ever done what I did without systems, without learning how to apply this business in a systematic type way, because otherwise I'd have been lost. It's trying to like grapple with something that's, it's like it's mysterious otherwise. And
you're being so transparent tonight, Michael. That's really nice to hear.
And so I love to have a way to think processes, because essentially those are the only things we really can learn, teach, and duplicate. Everybody is their own person. Everyone's unique. Everyone has their own personality, and that's what we bring. That's what brings the richness to the Niken culture. But in terms of what does it take to actually help somebody get what they need to get to make a decision, to enroll, to get involved, to get active, those are processes. And one of the things that I've spent my days doing is understanding these processes and then helping others to understand them as well. So we'll be teaching more of that on this call, as we have in the earlier months of last year and the previous year, where we bring out tools like this one and we start referring to them and talking about, okay, what is this tool for? What do we do with it? Why do I have it? Why is it in print, etc.? Because they all serve a purpose. Think about it this way. If you were an electrician, and I was, and you walked into a house with a tool pouch on, and the person said, could you do me a favor and change that pot light because it's not working? And you look at your tool pouch and you go, I wonder which one of these tools is going to do that. So you need to know how to use the tools, not just the task at hand. And so one of the things that I love to teach is what's the task and what are the tools? And that's what we'll get a little bit more focused on in this call with that program. And we can do that tonight as well. Anybody have questions? Yeah.
Mike, just curious, do you know yet, once you start the Power Start team calls, are you planning on it being 30 minutes, 45, an hour, or sort of a loose flow to?
Well, this call, Writing with Success, will be the same. I haven't timed myself doing the presentation that I'm working on right now, okay, which is right now the working title is Career Plan and Launch Strategy. And that's what it used to be called when I first worked that presentation. So it'll help people get an understanding of sort of the 50,000 foot view right down to how do we get the engine started? And it focuses on the launch strategy that I teach about the 3 conversations and some of the tools such as the products, the packs, how to get started with that, good, better, best. So it'll answer a lot of questions for somebody who is at the point where they've seen the business, the products, they're liking what they see, but now they need the rubber to meet the road. They need to know exactly what is it going to take for them to get this thing off the ground and a running start, so that they have a business in the next 3 to 6 months that they can rely on for income. So that's what that presentation's for. The conclusion of that presentation is that they now have a clear understanding of what's the difference between a consultant and a partner. Why we call them differently. Even though they both pay $99 to register and become a consultant, there is a difference. And that is the difference between someone who is doing the business without a program, without a system, without necessarily a goal or objective, and someone who is using the system, is using the program, and does have some clearly defined goals. That's the difference. And so, I don't know why anybody would get into a business and not want the help to set those goals and have those objectives and do the things that they need to do to succeed. But unless it's clearly defined, unless the path is clearly defined, people are left to themselves. And when left to themselves and they don't know what to do, what do?
Nothing.
Nothing. So that's why we're trying to make this path a little bit more clearly defined. And then they'll step into the Power Start team, which will be, again, focus on the actions, the daily activities, helping them, supporting them in those daily activities with ABC calls, etc.
Mike, it's really no different. There's so many professions on here. It's no different than where any of us ever worked. There were policies, procedures, education, certification. You had to know what you were going to do. So,
if you're going to be productive and you're going to be someone who can competently help someone else, then there has to be something you're good at. You've become skilled at. Otherwise, what are you actually teaching them? So it's defining those roles and responsibilities, those competencies. For instance, just why the PACs? What's the purpose of the PACs? Is as a business strategy. If you can't answer that question, it's because you've never had to answer that question. And if you've never had to answer that question, it's because you never saw the benefits. No one explained the benefits to you from a business perspective. So what if that was part of the information? And now they understand there's a benefit associated with those PACs. Now they understand why those PACs are high priority as far as getting started. And now it's no longer a mystery. And these PACs are not just one of many different things to look at in terms of the product line. Now they become a focal point because you're looking to get your business started with some clear objectives.
Quick question, Mike. I need to reorder some of the tools. Have they been updated at Life and Balance, or are they still the same?
Well, there's nothing been changed as far as I know. I don't have any updates from Nikan. So until I get updates from Nikan, there's nothing to update. That diagram hasn't been updated, Madeline, that you're holding in your hand. That particular thing, because that's part of a presentation that's about to come out. So
it hasn't been at Life and Balance Tools yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm still developing that presentation.
Okay, then
Mike, you mentioned
and it's not that critical, that what you're holding up. And somebody.
Yes, you mentioned the Power A call, which I heard about after the fact, but that it's recorded. How do we access that?
All the recordings that we do on the royalalliance.com/live, like this night, are all at the Royal Alliance YouTube channel. Okay. And you'll see them under playlists, except that one there was not under a playlist because I don't think we have a Power 18 playlist. I guess I could create one when we have enough of them. But it'll be last week's recording. You'll find it there.
You posted it on WhatsApp, Mike.
That too. I'm not sure if I posted it. I don't think I posted it as a tool.
No, maybe. You posted it on WhatsApp, so any of us could send it. I don't know who is that.
Yeah, it's on Launch Partners.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually post it also as a tool on the Launch Tools because it is a tool. This one is especially was useful, was good.
I thought everybody was excellent. Yeah, it was really nice to have the balance in the stories.
Yeah.
Very distinct.
And there was great diversity in the stories too.
Yeah, I thought everybody did a great job. It was short to the point, and this, there you go. You just got it. So if you're in the tools chat, if you're not in the tools chat, by the way, that's one of the ways we plug in. I just reminded myself. So yeah, the tools chat is a very important chat for staying connected to what tools there are. So just like now, I just posted that particular tool on the tools chat. Just one word of caution on the tools chat. If you do become linked to the tools chat, please, I beg you, please don't chat on it. It's not for chatting. It's for me and some of the other Royal Diamonds to release tools so you have quick access and you don't have to scroll through a million people's blah. So we don't chat on that on the tools chat. We just look at the tool and we share it with others. And by the way, practice sharing on somebody else's chat. I can't tell you how many times somebody changes the picture on me or changes the title on me or does something. Oh. So practice on your own chats. Any other questions? Okay, well, the goal here again is to get some new people going. So let's talk about that. Let's focus on that right now. What does it take? What do you need in terms of something that you get off this call tonight and you're going to be chomping at the bit to call somebody or maybe 5 or 10 people in the next 24 hours? What's it going to take? Thinking of names? So let's, two things. The actual name that I can actually call, and then my motivation. Why am I motivated to call this person? Now, the easy answer is the motivation. Why are you going to be motivated to call this? You know, we have this thing called the 5 pillars of health. And if you don't know your why, then that's one of the reasons why you're not calling people. It's the driving force. It says right on it. It's your driving motivation for action. Your driving motivation for action is this. So if you don't have a connection to a why that's powerful, that's bigger than any fear that you might have to actually reach out and touch someone, then you're not going to do it. Now, if your why was really big, and I'm talking about, there's two kinds of whys in this, by the way. There's your personal vision and there's your business vision. So your personal vision is what's in it for you. Your personal why. What happens if you succeed? What happens if you build another $5,000 or $10,000 a month to your income base? What does that do for your life and your lifestyle and your retirement or whatever else you might have in mind? You need to really consider this, because if we're dealing with believability, that's another factor altogether. Most people don't set specific goals. They don't know what they want. Never mind whether they believe they can have it. That's another issue. It starts with, what do you want? And you only have to want it. That's the only prerequisite, as my mentor Bob Proctor would say. The only prerequisite is that you want it. You don't have to justify why you want it. You don't have to worry about whether you're worthy and all that mumbo jumbo, psychological mumbo jumbo. We just either want it or we don't want it. That's really simple. So you got to decide what you want, and that's your why. Why would you do this business? And then you can correlate. You can clearly correlate. I'm sure there's somebody in your upline who could tell you that what you want is attainable, and this business can provide you with the means to attain it. I'm sure it's within reach for most people's objectives. So let's start with a fundamental. Why? What's your driving motivation for picking up the phone and getting uncomfortable in the next 24 hours? And if you don't have a driving why, if that's not something that rolls off the tip of your tongue, if it's not posted on a mirror in your bathroom, you don't have it. And that's part of the reason why you're stalled. You're just not connected to a powerful why. I can tell you one thing. I remember a story I was in Manitoba, actually. I think I was in Winnipeg. And I had just finished a presentation, and I can't remember, somebody was talking about, we were talking about income and what my income was at the time and so forth. And then I remember during the break, a woman came up to me and she was terribly offended. And she was offended that at the time I was earning what I was earning, which was about $50,000 a month. And she said, like that is, I don't know, it was almost anti, she was just really offended. It was like, how dare you earn that kind of money? That's ridiculous. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that kind of money, I think she said. And I said, I know what your problem is. And she looked at me with kind of a suspicious look. I said, your problem is you think that's too much money. I said, how much would it take for you? How much would you be able to live off of and do what you want to do? She said, $5,000 a month would be more than anybody could need. I said, what would you do with the other $45,000 if you were earning that? And she paused. And then she started thinking about the things she might actually do to help other people. I said, see how simple it is? Yeah, $50,000 a month, nobody really needs, but it does makes it possible for you to do more of what you like to do. And if it's to do good, you just have more to do, more money to do it with. And sometimes that's what we need to understand about money, is it just makes us more of what we are. If you're a giver, you're just going to find other ways to give. That's, believe me, it's like through my hands. Otherwise, if you're a taker, well, there's never enough money. There's just never enough money in the world. So either way, you need to make more money. And if you're a giver, you're going to enjoy ways to give. And that means make more money. And so more is good. In this particular case, more also represents the value that you've added in other people's lives. This is the beautiful connection of our Nikan income stream. Do you know that a penny, not a single penny is earned unless a product is delivered? Now, if we truly believe in the value of the product, that means there's value being delivered to the market. That's what we're being compensated for. So every dollar you're earning is because something of value is happening out there in the marketplace that you've had a hand in. And what's so amazing about our business is that you're going to get helping hands to do that. That's why we build a network, because then we have more hands. You know, many hands make light work. It makes the big job a little easier, and it makes the job bigger that we can afford to go after, making a bigger difference. And so clearly, if your income is in direct proportion to the value that you're adding, and the value that you're adding is not just your hands, but the hands of others that you've helped get involved with this, then you're entitled to more, because that's the way the equation works in our business. And this is perfectly ethical. In fact, I think it's one of the most moral and just laws of ways of incorporating the law of compensation, that you know that as you add value into other people's lives, you earn an income, and that the value that you add is not limited to you. This is the beautiful law of compensation. It's like a farmer who plants a seed and gets a harvest. They don't get a seed, they get a harvest. But they tend the soil, they water the plants, they do the things that they need to do, they till the soil, they do the work, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the next 48 hours. So your why needs to be something that drives you, even if it's something outside of you personally, even if it's the goal and the ambition to make a difference in the lives of others. If you're somebody who's done well, great. Who else do you want to help? I love that question to people who are very wealthy. And they say, I don't need to make more money. I say, well, do you have friends who do? Probably, yeah. Well, why don't you help them? And they see the value of that. They see this as an opportunity to help other people, enrich the lives of other people.
I think in listening to your training and then practicing it now, it's taking those questions like we talked about on one of the others. I re-listened to the Monday after November. Maggie used that example when you came in with Carol of getting down to that feeling level, and you've done that class several times. That unless that why gets down to something that you're feeling, like when you got this woman to think about what would she do with the other 45,000, that you start thinking about something and you start feeling a different emotion. Because most people, we live in such a scarcity mode, and you used that example. I don't know if you remember that weekend, it was Black Friday, where everybody has to rush and get the best deal because it's like, I got to save a little bit of money instead of thinking abundance. Right. And that when we do that training, Hisana tuned in for a little while, and I don't know if she was on that part with Star, but that's what I was doing with her. You know, right now they're working different shifts, they're in debt, and so the thinking is where they are, you know. So how do you get to that feeling level where that passion is really going to make a difference in whatever these hours are to do something? And it's true of Hisana too. So I really appreciate her being on tonight and hearing this. But as you're doing some of the teaching, when you're doing your Monday nights with the new people that are coming on, doing what you just did, you role play the A so well, getting it, you know, asking those questions, asking more questions to get people down to that feeling level. I as I've listened and watched to others, and I can see the difference in what I'm doing, That's what I think would be helpful if you did even more than that, because you're such a pro at that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So let's ask the other question then. If we have our why, and if we don't, please take the time in the next 24 hours to figure out your why. Because like I said, it's the driving force. It's the spring in the clock. And if you don't have it, you're just not going to do it. And that this becomes a complete waste of your time unless you're entertained by it, in which case it's a waste of my time. So let's get to the next piece, and that is, who are we going to call? Who are we going to call? Now, everybody knows people, and there's two kinds of people: those that you want to help and those that you feel could help you. Now, we usually don't think about the ones we feel that can help us because we're never taught that we're looking for help. We assume that because we got involved because we're looking to help ourselves, that other people will get involved because they need help. They're looking to help themselves, and let me help them. This is a helping business. So it's intrinsic, it's instinctive that we would assume, let me put together a list of names of people who I think could use the help, or who I think I could help. And while that list may be exhaustive, I mean, it may be for sure a lengthy list, my experience has taught me that the people who have become the most successful in Nikken are not necessarily the ones who, A, would ever admit they need help, but more specifically, they're the ones who I think would be able to help us because of who they are, because of the nature of that person. They're a person who likes to help people. They're a person who's influential. They're a person who gets the job done when the job needs to get done. They don't get mired in what they don't have or what they need. They try to solve the problem. They're problem solvers. They're looking to make a difference. These are the people who tend to be the most successful and productive in our business. So if you're new to Nikken, or if you're looking at how do I maximize my next 48 hours or 24 hours, how do I get the most bang out of my effort? Well, my experience is that if you spend that time asking those people for help, especially those who are the kind that can make a difference, that could contribute to our cause, our mission, they don't know what it is yet. They're going to learn that by learning about Nikken. That's what we're going to ask them to do. That's all we're going to ask them to do is help us. And in order for you to be able to help us in a way that is either directly or indirectly, you need to know what it is we need help with. So let me tell you what it is we're doing so you can see how this fits in to your life and whether or not this makes any sense for you to be part of directly or indirectly. This is all we're asking people to do. So who wouldn't we ask? Again, there's two kinds of people that are going to be on our list. People who we feel really need the help because of where they're at in life or what we know about the situation in their life, either financially, physically, whatever, stressed, or people who maybe we could use the help from. And they may not be apparently financially stressed. They may not apparently be physically stressed. You may not know what stresses they may be under because to you, they may be the ones that are winning. You know, they got all their act together. Well, I have not met a single person in my entire life who has their act together. And if they say they do, they're just really good at masking it. The truth of the matter is, you don't have your act together until you kick off this planet, because until then, you still got something to do. That's the rules that I understand are the nature of reality. If you're still on this planet, it's because you're not done. So the question then is, what are you going to do with the rest of yourself, with the rest of your time? How are you going to make the most of it? And Nikken is a way for people to engage in a process that enables them to make the most of it, physically, mentally, emotionally, through relationships, etc. So why not ask for their help? Any questions? It's really not hard. The hard part is getting over the fear that they're not going to like what we say, or they're not going to be encouraged, or they're going to be discouraging, even worse. That You know, the only way to overcome the fear is to face it, folks. It's not about forgetting that there's fear. That's never going to be real. It's facing it. That's courage. Courage is what it takes to overcome fear. Faith of a mustard seed will allow you to move any mountain. So how do we get that little bit of courage? That little bit of courage is to connect with this why. If you don't have the why, you won't have the courage. It gives you the guts, because this is more important than that little bit of fear in that one single situation.
Who wrote the book, Face Your Fear and Do It Anyways?
I don't know, but that's a great title.
I think there's a book to that title. I might even have it in my library. I'll have to have a look.
And you know, I'll probably bet that any of the people who've made it big, either in this business or any other business, are people who had to overcome their fears. And we all have them. We all have them. I'd be lying to you if I didn't have them, if I told you I didn't have them. We all face them because they're temporal. They're things that come and go. They're fleeting. You know, they're not real. They're just illusions, but we make up stuff in our head all the time. And so we create fear habitually. We create these fictions, these stories in our head habitually. We don't even know if it's true. We just make it up, and we then act and live as though it is true. And then we call that, you know, our fear or anxiety. And it's just make-believe. It's all make-believe. And yeah, you may have some experiences where you thought, yeah, I was right, that happened. Okay, did you learn something from it? Because if you did, then it was a great experience to learn something. If you learn nothing from it, then it was a waste of your time. You're going to have to face it again. I'm sorry, but that's the way life is. It'll keep throwing it at you until you get the lesson. And the lesson is not to give up. And the lesson is not to quit. The lesson is to learn, to make you a better person so that you are more capable of connecting with other human beings at their level.
I'll tell a story. That's really good for me. I could sleep better tonight. I had this joint replacement 7 weeks ago today. So first I trip over the hairdryer cord, and then I slide on the floor. So both times, not my right leg, but my left leg. So it was kind of getting better, and now it started hurting again for 2 weeks, you know. So I have the pad down, I've done everything, and it's still hurting. So of course I'm stuck in here with this blizzard this weekend. And I started thinking, you know, the nurse that knows too much, we're lousy patients anyway, you know, maybe I have osteomyelitis, you know, what about this, what about that? I did get the CT scan back, and that fear really can take over quickly. I mean, I felt my pulse going up, and I said, stop it, you know, just stop it. This is absolutely crazy. So this is perfect tonight. And I think for us, you know, I look at the same old us, except us out of here tonight, because we talked about it that night on thinking about what we didn't accomplish yet, you know, and you came back at a good one on that night too, Mike, is that the why, we just have to get back into that feeling thing again. You know, it does take some of the conscious kind of work that you've taught us so well. And so,
absolutely. Do you know, everything tends to, thanks, Madeline, everything tends to chaos. That's one of the natural phenomenons of science. When you go to science, you learn chaos theory. Everything tends towards chaos. It takes order. It takes energy to create order. So for instance, if you didn't do anything to your house, how long before your house starts falling apart, or your lawn, or your teeth, or anything? It's just, that's the nature of reality, right? So everything tends toward disintegration. It takes energy and effort to keep things in order. Well, what happens to our mind if we just let it to itself? The weeds start to take over. And the weeds are all those negative thoughts, all those things that are not helpful, not useful, certainly aren't going to lead you into the life that you want to live. It takes effort and energy. It takes will. It takes consciousness. It takes purpose. It takes all of these things. So none of the things that we're talking about are to take you down a blind path. It's to reinforce what we know is true, that if you consciously contribute to your life in a positive and optimistic way, you are going to create positive and optimistic situations. But if you don't do it on a daily basis, if you don't do the daily rhythm of getting those thoughts in the right order, then they will tend to chaos. Chaos leads to fear and disintegration and anxiety and loneliness and so forth, a make-believe reality. The truth is, it's all make-believe. This entire existence is make-believe. I'm going to leave you with one story. This is real, okay? So this is real science. I hope to be able to explain it because I've done it before and it's not the easiest thing to explain. But let me just see if I can get you to understand this idea that everything is make-believe. Your good days, your bad days, it really is about you choosing the outcome, choosing what you want to experience. It's a daily thing you've got to be on. You've got to be on it, guys. It's not something you can just sit back and cruise. It's not going to happen. We don't live in that world. We live in a world where you're getting bombarded with tweet messages. You're getting bombarded with Facebook messages. You're getting bombarded with TV messages, radio messages, advertising messages. You are getting constant bombardment. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's pervasive. That's everything challenging you to think the way somebody else wants you to think. So if you're not on guard, if you're not thinking your own thoughts on purpose, your thoughts are going to be reactions to other people's thinking, and that is going to control your life. Because what you're thinking, whether they're your thoughts or somebody else's, is controlling your life. Let me explain. So let's just say that this is the screen, okay? So this screen is what we're going to image something on. Let me just make it blank. So what they did was they fired an atom. And they fired the atom through an open door, okay? So they shot an atom through the open door. And the single atom hits the screen, and you see a dot. If they shoot a stream of atoms through a single open door, you see a bunch of dots hitting the screen. Now, if they create a second door, if they open a second door, here's what happens. Instead of having two streams of dots, what you get is what they call constructive and destructive interference patterns. It's like the atom goes through both doors at the same time and interfering with itself on the way, creating these constructive, destructive interference patterns. Now, we learned this in grade 11 physics. It's called the nature of an atom. It acts as both a particle and a wave, okay? This is photons, photons. We know light acts as both a particle and a wave. If it's a photon, a subatomic particle. But what about an atom? An atom is like an apple, just a bunch of atoms. An atom is like a person, a bunch of atoms. An atom is different than a photon. It's not subatomic, it's atomic. So they did this experiment using atoms, and they got the same results at the atomic level. Now, that's cool and that's funky all by itself, but that's not the point that I want to make. Here's the fun part. They shoot the atom through the two doors. And the atom goes through the two doors, and let's say this is where the doors are, and here's the screen. Halfway between, somewhere around here, they close one of the doors. So the atom has already gone through. It's already passed through the doors. It's halfway to the screen, and they close the second door. Now, would you expect anything to be different? It's passed through already. So we know the results. When it passes, it does this, right? Except when they closed the second door, what they got, instead of the constructive interference pattern, they got the dot. How's that possible? It already went through the door. They closed the door behind the fact, before the fact hit the screen. But when it hit the screen, the fact was a new fact. The fact that hit the screen, that imaged on the screen, was a reflection of the doors after the second door was closed, not the doors being open when the atom was first shot through it. Which means until the atom hits the screen, the point of observation, it's not a fact. It's only a fact once it hits the screen. And what hits the screen will be a reflection of the choice that was made when it is made. Whether the doors are open or whether the door is closed. Let me repeat this. A fact is not a fact until it hits the screen of observation. Regardless of when it happens in time, when the decision is made, only then does the fact become a fact and is imaged on the screen. You can change your mind about something and it's not a fact until it is a fact in your mind. When the door is closed or the door is open. Once you make that decision, and you can change your mind until you actually lock in that decision, until you make the decision, it's still a variable.
So that's changing your decision. That's not having the 100% I over M is what the connection is. That decision that you stick to it. You're not going to let something else get in the way. You have to have the courage to keep fighting it and keep changing your mindset.
You have to actually make a decision and stick to the decision, but caution, because if something takes you off of that, a distraction, fear, whatever it is you're conjuring up in your head, even fear, even though it's just imagined, if that's what you land on, that's what's going to emerge on the screen of your consciousness. That's what's going to emerge in reality. In the physical world that we're living in, the physical atoms will organize themselves according to that. This is the thing that's most intriguing about this. We've heard it all our lives. What you think about is what you manifest and so forth. We've heard these platitudes all of our life, but now there's actually physical evidence that the physical world adjusts itself according to these thoughts. You know that there's a book called The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, where your DNA, your physical DNA is actually being created by your emotions and your thoughts. Whatever you're conjuring up in your head is manifesting in your body. So how important is it for us to be very conscious of what we're putting in our head or allowing to fester in our mind? And I'm talking about our heart, not just our head. I'm talking about the feeling body, right? Because that's how you know what you're thinking is how you feel. So why would it be wrong for you to think your thoughts and create your world and create your reality? Somebody else is going to do it for you if you don't do it for yourself. It's happening all the time, all around us. Even the people closest to us are trying to get us to believe things. How many of you are being drawn into drama in your family all the time? Some people, that's their whole existence is about the drama that they can drum up and get other people to buy into. And then it becomes a conversation and a text chatter, and it's like, geez, what a complete waste of time. This is where I'm spending my life force in engaging in this nonsense. This is where they're spending their life force engaging in this nonsense, is because I'm family. I'm supposed to be drawn into this. I'm supposed to react to this. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm just not interested in you creating in my space. Sorry. There's only so much room in this space, and it's for only those things that I want to experience in my life. And I'm conscious enough and grateful enough that I want to create good things, and that good thing includes other people. So, hey, leave me to it. That's what it means to be a conscious creator. Rather than letting other people create for you by causing you to react. Are you reacting or are you proacting? Are you thinking? Are you choosing your thoughts? And you can tell, some people know how to get under your skin, boy, and lickety split, right? And you can see your vibrations just go right down, and you get angry and whatever. Okay, you're caught. You're caught. You're in the trap. Get out of it. Recognize you're in it. Get out of it. You can get out of it just as fast as you got in it. You can just say, oh, whoa, time out. I'm not playing this one. No way. Sorry, Not tonight. I got a headache. So create the reality you want to create. Choose the ideas, choose them wisely. And with that, create the reality that you want to have, like the life you want to live. Niken is a vehicle. This conversation that's happening tonight, right here, right now, what brought to you by Niken, powered by Niken. That's what's funding and fueling this conversation. The thing we call Niken has given birth to a conversation that is important and valuable. And more people ought to be invited to this conversation. And that's why you should start contacting more people and say, you know what? There's something good happening here. There's good conversation taking place here. This is valuable. This is important. This can change lives. And nobody is too important and nobody is too busy. Just get that one too. For me, that's a firm belief. Nobody is too important and nobody is too busy. And I don't care who they are on this planet. They could be the President of the United States. They could be the Queen of England. I don't care who they are. Nobody is too important and nobody is too busy. They're just doing what they think is in their best interest at the time. And if they don't know any better, they'll just keep doing it. So let me leave you with that. And, make the next 48 hours count, guys. Get a strong why. Lock into your why. Because if it's not written down, I have it in my mirror. I see this thing every day in my mirror.
What do you have written on your mirror, Michael?
Nope, that's my business. It's my why. But it's a big why, and it matters to me, and it's what gets me to do what I do voluntarily.
It's got to be a big one because you do a lot.
It's got to be. It has to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise you run out of steam, right? Otherwise you run out of steam. It's too easy to run out of steam. There's so many things that can be a distraction. So it's got to be a big why, and it's something that's worth fighting for, worth working toward. And that's why I do what I do. And I know that it's a contributor to my success because the law of attraction, that works that way. What I attract is a consequence of what's going on in my head, what I'm feeling on a daily basis. And if you're thinking like I'm thinking all the time, how to make it bigger, how to make it better, how to make it bigger, how to make it better, how to make it bigger, how to make it better, that's all you're ever thinking about, you're going to be inspired with ideas. And why do I make it bigger? Why do I want to make it better? Because I believe in the mission. Because I believe this conversation is a good conversation and needs to expand to a larger audience.
Michael, did you present those slides or did someone else? Because that presentation was recent.
Yeah, that's in my law of attraction presentation.
Your law of attraction presentation. I connected to it more tonight, maybe since I'm thinking about my knee. But that was repetition is the mother of all learning. So now it makes more sense.
Granted. By the way, that is a presentation. I don't know if it's public. I think it is public actually. So if you want to hear more about that, how it's a long presentation, but it's a good one. It's called the Law of Attraction Assumption because I think it's a better name for it.
On your Michael DiMuccio YouTube?
Yeah, it's on my personal channel. Yeah, it's on my personal channel. So just look up the Law of Attraction, type in my name, and it should pop up. And it gets into that and other things that help you realize the source of so many belief systems and why there are other guidance systems out there. I find religion to be a guidance system. There's many different religions. Everybody's not right, or is everybody right? So if all roads lead to Rome, then at the end of the day, everybody's right. But do they? It's a big question mark on a lot of people's minds. So what do is they tune everything else out and they buy into their own. What if that path leads down to, the watering hole or something? I don't know. The point is, we come up with these ideas, these belief systems to support an ideology, to support a way of thinking, a way of living that hopefully bring us to a life and a quality of life that makes sense. And if you're thinking that the only life that matters is the one that you're going to when you leave this one, then you've lost the entire point of why you're in this one.
Michael, there is a book by that name, and it's by Susan Jeffers.
By which name?
Susan Jeffers.
What's the name of the book?
Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Okay, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Susan Jeffers.
Susan Jeffers, PhD.
Right on.
Dynamic technique for turning fear, indecision, and anger into power, action, and love.
Perfect. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. Feel the fear and do it anyways. Because I think if you don't have some degree of fear, you're probably not sane. So it's healthy, but it's healthy if it's used in the right way. If it's used as a force to contrast. It's to say, okay, I'm feeling this. Why am I feeling this? Let me reflect on that, because that is not the feeling I want to be feeling. So I'm feeling this because it's in opposition to something. It helps you discover something about yourself so that you can have some direction. And we can flip that switch on instantly. So we make the fear not our boss. We make it our guidance. There's another great book by Lynn Grabhorn called, help me remember this book.
Excuse me, your life is waiting.
Thank you. Excuse me, your life is waiting. It's kind of like your emotional guidance system. Use your emotions correctly.
It's funny too. Yeah, it's a little lighter than the physics class.
Yeah, totally. In fact, I'm getting that book for my daughter because that's a book that I promised her, and I think it would be a great book. She's such an emotional person that this will really help her learn how those emotions help steer. If you learn how they're instructing you. If we're just constantly reacting, then we're not learning anything. But if we learn that the emotion's like a blinking light of, need gas or check engine light or something, if we learn that, then we know, oh, I'm supposed to do this. Oh, I'm supposed to do that. So that's what our emotions are really there for. Otherwise, we'd be a two-dimensional being and this life would be boring. So we have these things, these tools. It's like having the tool pouch and not knowing how to use the tools. Well, let's learn how to use the tools and become conscious creators. That's our mandate. That's why you're here. You're here to create. Now create the life you want to live and stop reacting to other people and stop, letting them create in your space. So with that, let's make the next 48 hours a big one. Thanks, Mike. There's the law of attraction bracket assumption link if you want it. Take a quick look in the chat, copy paste that. It's on YouTube there. All right, everybody, thank you for joining me tonight. Hope to see you next week. Pass it on. Let people know that this call is for anybody, everybody who's new, especially because we need them to get into this conversation. If they want to change their life, they need to get plugged into the river of life. Talk to you soon. Have a good night.